ticks.
Plus the wood ticks.
And ticks are.
One to the other.
Yeah, it is. You don't get a break.
Oh, yeah.
I can hand you one stick. Okay, bulk sampling. Last time we were through the question is when is the analysis going to begin? And we've got initial work started on that. We're doing some crushing and grinding and size distribution work on it, looking at stockpiling and material, the strengths, the stability of it, how high it can stand, and so forth. The sites that are up there are being inspected by both GE-TAC staff and the DNR on a weekly basis. As far as site tours, the DNR is inspecting the property on a regular basis, and the GTAC staff has conducted about 6 tours so far for about 69 people. These tours have included the Science on Tap group. The Park Falls Schools districts had some representation up there, various media outlets, and then some state administrators. As far as the field work, yes?
Tracy, could you do me a favor and shut the door in there, please? Thank you. I'm sorry, Bill.
Certainly. Now, as far as field work goes, and that's kind of what you've been asking before, we've had up to 25 individuals per day. I know this implies it may be on a weekly basis, but it's actually 25 individuals are up for a week, so they're out there daily for 5 days a week. And that's boots on the ground, and they're going out and doing bird studies, invertebrate studies, mammal studies, cataloging of plants, delineations of wetlands, delineations of streams, navigable bodies of water, and so forth. One of the things we'd like to point out is the community involvement or investment, or actually the impact that we're having on the community right now. And as of, or since March 13th through June 15th, the company has invested in the local community here $442,000. That's coming from our local personnel, our contracts and services at close to $350,000. Motel and housings over $20,000. Vehicle purchases and repairs or rentals close to $42,000. Hardware and supplies that we bought just from local vendors and local companies and stores to over $10,000. Food and fuel, $10,000, and then donations and other miscellaneous parts that we have close is about $7,600. So if we look at it from the beginning of the year to middle of June, that's almost an investment of $1 million that the company has made. So I think that's a pretty substantial impact that we've made to the community and into the county. These figures do not include the monies that we've spent for consultants that have offices and staff outside the area. This is only for the consultants, only for the contractors, and for the staff and services within the local community. So there's an additional cost that we're putting out there for the study and preparing the EIR. One last thing, they came out in the paper today, and that is that we are sending out letters to all landowners within a 2-mile radius of the mine with a water well survey questionnaire. And we put in the paper, we're asking for them to respond to it with answers to the questions, what kind of well, how deep, sizing, water flow, and such of this. And so we'll continue following up and compiling that information. And that's kind of what we've been doing up there. We're still up there, bugs are still thick, collecting data, scientists on the run. So, questions for that?
How long do you expect that to continue?
Through September. We'll be up there through September on the delineation side. So that's painstakingly grid, where they actually lay out grids, come up with GPSs, lay down the sites, and then we'll mark it and record what they've got and map it out.
Did they grind up your material yet?
They've got some of the material ground up, and this is what we're using for the tailings characteristics. Basically, we ground it up, separated the iron out of it, leaving us with just the tailings stockpile material, and that's what we will then use to do mineral or size distributions, as well as stability, compactability, and so forth. The basic stuff that you would use for design work on your stockpile impoundment area.
Will your delineation be done in September?
I sure hope so. It's painstakingly slow. I mean, it's something we would have thought would have taken maybe a month or two, and we've been at it since May. And they're still out there. We have 4 groups out there doing the delineations right now, and I would suspect they're maybe 30% complete.
Who are you contracting with for the delineation?
We have Stantec doing most of the delineation. We do have DNR out there doing stream navigability studies. So they were out earlier and they were identifying the areas that they would say this is a navigable stream or not a navigable stream. But Stantec is the primary consultant.
And where are they at?
Stantec is about halfway between Milwaukee and Madison. They're a bigger group than that. That's just their Wisconsin offices. They've got offices in Canada and other parts of the country.
We don't have a local contractor that's able to fill that.
We're supplementing with some of that. Some of the work that we've asked Stantec to do is use as much local as possible, using the certified people of the state of Wisconsin. One of those happens to come out of Arborvitae, for example. So, I mean, that's local, but it's not local. But that is someone up in the Northwoods doing some of the delineation work.
Engineering doing some work for you too, Bill?
Coleman's doing quite a bit of engineering work for us. Yeah, they're out there too. Yeah, the big guy with the beard, and yeah, he's covered with the bite marks. You can tell which ones are working out there.
Donated a couple pints of blood already.
That's what it is. Yeah, we're feeding them well.
Other questions?
Like what you're seeing from your initial samples?
We're not seeing any showstoppers. Let's put it that way. Whether we like it or not is a different story. The area is wet. I mean, we're still wet. It's still drying up. A lot of this cold held a lot of moisture in the soils for a long, long time. And I think the county's noticed that because they're doing some logging in that area right now. And we're afraid to bring in a rig that can put in water monitoring wells. They're out there running logging trucks. But then again, those guys do that for a living, and they don't bat an eye at it. And they also probably aren't as sensitive as we are as what we want to disturb or can disturb or not disturb type deal. But yeah, I think we're seeing some good results. I think we're doing good.
Anybody else?
The stuff that you seeded and mulched and everything last year, is it all growing back in?
Oh gosh, it looks like a picnic ground right now. We'll put a table up there for you. Let you eat lunch if you like. You can take a bite, and they can take a bite. A trade-off.
Thank you, Bill. We're gonna move on. There is a letter that's going to be sent out to the mining board. It's essentially the same letter that I sent to the Department of Revenue, but just with a different title on that. It's saying that pursuant to Administrative Code Tax 13.06, parent 3, that we are notifying the department and the board that we're intending to begin negotiations and preparing to negotiate a local agreement with Go-Get-It Packaging. And that satisfies the statutory requirement. This will be CC'd to you also, Bill, to satisfy the requirement of Chapter Tax 13. So that'll be sent out. Any questions on that? And so we're going to move on to a discussion on the reclamation process. Last month, Kelly suggested that we have Joe Barres here. Joe couldn't make it for this meeting, and he's going to be here at our next meeting along with Charlie Zinsmaster, who I've heard is very good at knowing what types of soil will support what types of plant materials. And so the two of them are going to get together and do a presentation for us next month. And tentatively have that meeting set for Wednesday, July 23rd at 4 o'clock. Which is kind of an odd day, but I'm out of town on the 24th. I had a couple of phone calls after our meeting with ideas for reclamation. I mean, thank you, Jeff and Terry, for calling and bringing those ideas up. I think it would be good if we had public comment at one meeting just to discuss reclamation ideas and get input from the community on what they'd like to do with that site. If Go-Get-It Tacknite is here, they could say, well, this is possible, this isn't. I find that my idea to restore that back to what it was pre-cut over probably is not practical. It's very expensive and hasn't been very successful in the past. But any idea put out there, I think, should be considered. So how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, fine. You know, I unfortunately was unable to make the last meeting, and that was the meeting after we attended that seminar. Did you guys talk, and I didn't necessarily, I don't recall all the minutes, but, you know, ownership and how it affects reclamation. You know, who owns it, and what can we dictate and do relative to ownership? In other words, if the area is privately owned, what are we able to do?
Well, I think we were talking more about the stockpile,
Okay, very good.
which will be county land.
Okay.
Now, with the lake, I think that maybe through local agreement and through community, I think we should have some say in, gee, yes, we want a beach area. I don't think that the DNR would approve a plan that just put a barbed wire fence around here and closed it off as an industrial center. I don't think they approve that. So the lake will be part of it, but a big part of it is stockpile. Tim Myers gave a presentation, some reclamation that had been done in West Virginia. The stockpiles had a large Boy Scout camp. Another was a site in the penitentiary, and of course everything that we saw in Minnesota. Housing developments to.
Yeah, I would tell you that, you know, and I'm sure you folks talked about your experience last meeting at that convention in Minnesota, but I was amazed at how highly guarded ownership of stockpiles is up there. That actually struck me a bit. You know, I thought that, you know, geez, these guys would be getting rid of these things or not wanting them anymore. And I was just really taken aback by how they continue to hold those stockpiles in high regard. In the breakout session that I was in, there was a mine there represented with multiple ownerships, and they keep tabs on how much stockpile goes where, and these stockpiles are named. Sometimes they're just numbered up there, but it was basically broken up by mine ownership in percentages. I found that interesting, very interesting, and held in high regard. They didn't want to give those up, so it would seem to me that here in Iron County we should look at, you know, what these guys are doing with stockpiles. It's interesting.
So I'm not sure if we have a meeting where there's public comment and discussion, because there are people out there with the expertise, whether it be DNR, soils, landscaping, or what have you. It'd be nice to have that expertise. How should we structure that? Should we use a card system?
Submit questions or submit ideas, or
Submit questions with cards, and it would be nice if people had their names and the communities that they're from. Put those forth.
I would say submit ideas. You know, that's what we're looking for. There's any of us here that are experts and can maybe, you know, or can respond to questions. At this point, we're looking for ideas.
Well, it was interesting speaking to Jeff Wilson, and his suggestion. I was fascinated by it. I guess the elk population in the Clam Lake region isn't doing all that great because they didn't quite have it right when they planted the grasses, and they aren't as nutritionally good for the elk. So if you could get good grasses planted up on that stockpile, which would be cheaper than trying to grow timber up there, it would also go a lot quicker, and reestablish an elk habitat there. I thought that was a great idea, especially if you're going to have a lake and campground, and we have people that can get their binoculars out there, go see if they can see some elk, something that's not seen very much in the state of Wisconsin, so it gives them sleepers. I thought that was a really good idea. Whether it's possible or not, I don't know, but these are kind of things we're looking at. So we've got Charlie and Joe coming to the next meeting. Is there anybody else that we should, this is really distracting. If there's anybody else that we should speak with before we have the public comment on reclamation, can you think of anyone? Give us some ideas on possibilities. Bill, do you have any suggestions?
Not right offhand. I do know that the IRRB has a representative that's in charge of mine reclamation. I think Dan Jordan, but I think it'd be difficult for him to come down.
We've already asked Dan to come.
I just think travel may be hard on him.
They don't have the resources, and this mining tends to be controversial, and we don't want to do it.
Understood. If anything, though, if he can put together a list of bullet points and suggestions, some of the things they're doing. I know they've got a greenhouse set up at the Iron Center, which is over by Chisholm, in which they are growing seedlings, and then they're using that as part of an Arbor Day celebration for the school kids, in which they are going out and planting these and rehabbing their various mining areas. And if you've got a list of things and activities that they are doing, or they would like to do, I think maybe that would be help in establishing a reclamation plan that for the inputs that you'd like to have on it.
You know, even if Dan can't come, he may be able to recommend somebody from the Minnesota DNR or someone who's retired who could pay their expenses, as we did with Mr. Skirl when he came to talk about the economic impact of mining in northeastern Minnesota. That's another possibility. So maybe he can recommend someone to come. Do you guys like that idea? Or with the recommendation through Dan Jordan? They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. And the IRRB is responsible for stockpiles that were pre-reclamation laws, so pre-1982, which is not going to be the case with us going forward, but still, we've tried a lot of different things, and we've had a lot of success too.
Leslie?
Yeah?
You mentioned public comment on reclamation, which is fine, and Bob had said something about submit ideas, which maybe makes a lot more sense, and I was wondering if, you know, rather than writing them down on a card at a meeting, if we set a time period of a month or 2 months where people could either mail in or email in or something like that.
Okay, that might be a better idea.
I was thinking the same thing, Kelly. I was thinking you could submit your questions and give us time to research and get the answers instead of throwing us all under the bus at the same time.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if there would be so many questions as, here's my idea for the site.
We're looking for ideas, and we'd have time to research them and have the answers that we need.
Yeah.
We know what to ask maybe too, to find out what we want.
And then where would we distribute those, through the courthouse or?
Mike, did you have something dropped off at the clerk's office up there? Why don't you go to our suggestions or something dropping off at the county clerk's desk? So we can get them distributed accordingly.
How about the library too?
That's the city clerk's office or the early library, either way. Whichever we want to meet with the people.
Well, let's talk
So we
about that a
can
little more
look at some more
next
things
month
that
and
way.
see how we're gonna handle these things. I think probably the earliest we'd be able to do that would be September.
Give us time to do some research and find the right answers for what we need to do.
Okay. There's a good chance for Dan Jordan to get that, find out. Okay.
Meanwhile, we'll various and Charlie Dinsmaster to come some sort of report for next month.
Okay. What's possible, we'll go there, what's practical, what isn't, and of course, we're looking for something that's a win-win for everybody, for the community, for the environment, for the mining company. Okay. Any other comments?
Maybe somebody from Magnetation, they're the newest thing out there.
And the IRRB loves magnetation
Yeah.
because they're taking those stockpiles, now they have to reclaim that area. That's really taken a lot of pressure off of the public.
Yeah.
What about the landowner, RGGS, do they have any input in this? What will happen to the ownership? You people are leasing this from RGGS, who retains ownership, or how does that transfer to the county like we're planning afterwards? I don't understand this part.
The RGGS part, which would be the northern section of the permit area, will be retained by RGGS. We are leasing the minerals, or they're the fee holders on it. the southern part, which is county land, which is the option to lease once we start the operations, in which we'll be leasing it from the county. And when